Every once in a while, you'll come across a picture book that makes you feel like you've been transported into a soft watercolor dream. Or perhaps you flipped through another and thought, wow, this book feels like it was painted with pure energy and potentially some caffeine filled chaos. And that's just not the illustrator's style, it's the paint. Hey everyone, I'm Nick. This is DrCrankyPantsReads, and today we're talking about painting in picture books. Because not all paint is created equal. Watercolor, gouache, acrylic, oil, each does something slightly different, and illustrators choose them for a reason. And by the time you're done here, you'll be able to spot the difference between these mediums and, more importantly, understand how they completely change the way a story feels. Illustrators don't just wake up and say, I feel like using acrylic today. Okay, maybe some do. I'm not an illustrator, so I don't know these things. But really, most are thinking about how the painting affects the storytelling. Because painting, it changes the mood. Soft watercolors can make a book feel gentle, nostalgic, or dreamlike, while thick oil paints can make it feel deep, dramatic, and textured. Paint affects the pacing of a book as well. Watercolor tends to flow and blend, making pages feel light and airy like your favorite pastry, while acrylic and gouache can feel flat and bold, moving the eye quickly and deliberately across a page. Additionally, paint creates texture, and a book with visual brushstrokes feels handmade and expressive, whereas a book with smooth, flat colors might feel a bit more modern and graphic. So when you're looking at a picture book, you're not just seeing colors, you're seeing the illustrator's entire approach to storytelling. Now, let's break down the 4 big painting mediums. So let's start with watercolor, which is really soft, dreamy, and kind of like my puppy, impossible to control, but in the best way. Watercolor is one of the most popular painting mediums for picture books, and it's really easy to see why. It creates light, airy illustrations that feel gentle and fluid. Let's look at Old Bear by Kevin Hanks. This book leans into the transparency and softness of watercolor, making the pages feel like they're glowing from within. There's a couple of different ways that you can spot watercolor in picture books. If you see soft, blended edges, colors that blend into one another instead of staying perfectly contained. Additionally, watercolors tend to have transparent layers. You can often see one color peeking through another. Additionally, you're going to find some uneven color intensity. Some areas are going to look darker and more saturated, while others are going to feel light and faded. Illustrators choose watercolor for a variety of reasons. It creates soft, flowing movements. Great for books that feel whimsical, nostalgic, or even a little dreamy. It also allows for spontaneous blending, making illustrations feel organic and natural. It's also visually soothing, which is why so many gentle, bedtime-friendly books use it. If a book feels like a warm, nostalgic memory, chances are watercolor's behind it. Now let's go to gouache, the bold, matte, and underrated middle child of the paint world. Gouache is like watercolor's bolder, more dramatic sibling. It has all the flexibility of watercolor, but instead of being transparent, it's rich, matte, and fully opaque. For instance, if we look at the cover of When the Sea Turned to Silver by Grace Lynn, we can see how the illustrator's use of gouache gives the book cover a sense of deep, rich color, but with the ability to layer details in ways that watercolor can't. Now, if you're trying to decide between whether something's watercolor or gouache, here's some stuff that you can look for. Look for a matte finish. There should be a shiny gloss, just smooth, velvety color. It should also be bold and opaque. No transparency like watercolor. Each layer completely covers the one beneath it. You're also going to want to look for flat areas of color. If it looks solid but still painterly, gouache might be the culprit. Illustrators might choose this particular variety of paint because it allows for bold, vibrant color without the heaviness of acrylic or oil. It has a hand-painted but classic feel, making books feel rich and timeless while also being incredibly versatile. It can look like watercolor or acrylic depending on how it's used. If a book feels painterly but controlled, chances are gouache is behind it. Let's talk about acrylic. Acrylic is bold, bright, and impossible to ignore. This paint is incredibly fast drying, high energy, and full of punch, which is why it's often used for books that feel bold as well as lively. For an example, let's look at Frida Kahlo and her Animalitos by John Pera. Pera's acrylic paintings create vibrant, richly colored illustrations that are packed with energy and movement. If you're looking to identify whether or not some painting is acrylic or not, things to look for include vibrant, saturated colors. Remember that acrylic is bold, bright, and full of contrast. You're also going to want to look at the brush strokes. If you can see visible brush strokes, if you can see the texture of the paint, it's probably acrylic, but also maybe possibly oil. But if it's flat but layered, acrylic can be used thinly like a watercolor or thick like an oil, but it always has a modern, crisp feel. Illustrators might choose acrylic because it allows for high impact, high contrast illustrations and works great for books that feel bold, high energy, or even a little chaotic. It dries fast, which is great for illustrators who don't want to wait a week for their work to dry. Looking at you, oil paint. If a book feels high energy and colorful, acrylic might be the secret weapon. Now, let's move on to the grandparent of them all, oil paints. These deep, dramatic, and textured paints are luxurious, expressive, and takes forever to dry, which is why illustrators who use it are incredibly patient or possibly a bit unhinged. Let's look at Kadir Nelson's The Undefeated. Nelson's rich, layered oil paintings create a sense of depth and history that wouldn't be possible with a flatter, more graphic medium. If you're looking to spot oil paints in picture books, look for deep, rich textures. If you feel like you could see the layers of paint, it's probably oil. Also, look for bold, dramatic lighting because oil allows for high contrast highlights as well as shadows. And if you notice a slightly glossy or almost luminescent finish, unlike gouache or acrylic, oil often has a soft glow to it. Illustrators like to choose oil paintings for the incredible depth that it creates, which allows for quite a degree of realism. It also lasts forever. Literally, some paintings have been around for centuries. This makes books feel rich, historic, and full of gravitas. If a book feels like it belongs in an art museum, oil paint might be behind it. What's next? Now that we've covered painting, we're moving into printmaking and scratchboard, because some books aren't painted at all, but instead carved, inked, and stamped. So stay tuned, and in the meantime, let's talk What's a Picture Book, where the painted illustrations completely change the way you experience the story. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's discuss. See you in the next one.